I have a knife review for you today. Does anyone recognize this knife? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? This is the Rockwell knife that I ripped on in my video about weird or strange knife ads in non-knife related catalogs. This is the freebie knife you get with an order from Pipes and Cigars magazine. And I have a huge thank you to Mr. Larry in Indiana. Here's his letter he sent me, Jeff, regarding your video of September 15th, 2014. I'm one of those old guys who smoke pipes and cigars. Please accept this Rockwell. I have received several over the past few months for cigar purchases. It's not a bad little knife for a freebie. Personally, I EDC fixed blades. And that was sent on September 16th. So, I gave this knife a chance. I used it. Like I said, big thank you for getting one in my hands, because it did stir up a little bit of interest in this particular knife. If the manufacturer or brand has other knives, other models where you can get them. Still have no idea where you can get these other than spending like 50 bucks or whatever it was at Pipes and Cigars. I will agree, I'll say it's not the worst freebie knife I've ever gotten. I've gotten quite a few, free, hey, thanks for ordering kind of stuff. And those freebie knives usually stink, and it's not horrible for completely free. But that's not saying a whole lot, is it? So we're gonna go over this knife and review it a little bit, but like I said, I really have no other information about this company, where it's actually coming from. It says $60 value on the ad, that doesn't really mean much. Don't know where you can actually buy them. Anyone has information on that? I'm certain that everyone would like to see it below. Other than maybe like eBay or something, I don't know where you'd be able to pick this up other than getting it through an order at Pipes and Cigars. But anyway, what we're looking at here is an aluminum framed liner lock. What you didn't really see in that ad is that flipper they talked about but didn't really show. You can see how much it extends here. Not quite finished all the way. There is some sharp corners which produce a little bit of a problem with it doubling as a guard. I found that this knife has a pretty decent sized handle, but I can't get a good grip on it because I can't put a lot of pressure upwards on this guard because it's irritating to the finger. It's just uncomfortable. Besides that, the pocket clip on here digs into the hand. Okay, when I first got this, I was playing with it, using it a little bit, thought, not too bad. Once you actually start using the knife hard, that's when you find out that there's definitely hot spots coming from that clip. Talking about the clip first, it actually works really well. I'm surprised to see they did a deep carry clip, but they used the mounting spots as the actual frame. That's kind of tricky, especially on cheap knives, to miss that during the manufacturing process. So it's an interesting design to do that. But there you see there is 4 screws there, so it is held on quite securely. It's a smaller clip in length, so it's a little bit less noticeable on the pants. It does carry very well. It's a little bit tight, but the scales are very smooth on this. There's kind of these they look like overlays, but it's just molded into the aluminum scales here. So they're not separate pieces. It's literally just the aluminum. But there's 2 on each side. They look like they have a lot of grip, and they really don't. In fact, I can zoom in for you, give you a nice close shot of those. They look pretty grippy, don't they? But it's not grippy at all. Quite smooth. So I did notice on one occasion, my hands were actually moist and using this, and guess what? It slipped out of my hand. I had a hard time even closing it with one hand when it was wet. So not good in a wet surface. As far as the actual dimensions on this, open length is 7.48 inches, and the blade is 3.93 inches, 440. Now the ad didn't say what steel it was. I found that information through a thread. I believe it was on knife forums of someone talking about this, and they said it was 440. 440 what? Probably A. I can't even go by that because that's just word of mouth. There's no definitive answer as to what steel this has. I can tell you that in using it and cutting things, it really wasn't all that bad. Probably, definitely in the AUS 6 to 440A range though. It did come really sharp. I will say that. No complaints with it. The factory edge, it was fairly sharp when I got it, but it dulled out, relatively quickly with some actual use on it. If you're cutting boxes open in mail, it'll stay sharp for a long time, as most cheap knives will. But if you're really using your knives for a while, you'll find that the differences between the good steels and the not so good steels. It's 3 millimeters for the stock on this blade, and the HRC is 58, according to the ad. Again, no other information can be really verified. The liner lock on here is relatively thin, like most cheap Chinese knives. No play in any direction though. That was a nice positive find there. I really thought this would have some slop in it, but gotta say, call it as I see it, and this is a great lockup. However, if you're opening nice and calmly with that ambidextrous thumb stud, no big deal, locks up just fine. But if you give it a little bit of a whip open with the flipper on here and kind of wrist action, any harder force to open it, and you do get sticky lock. I don't know if you heard that, but it pops. That time it didn't pop. Of course, right when you want it to happen, doesn't happen. And it's not going to happen now. But with some of the harder flicks, oh, there we go. I stopped talking, maybe you can hear that. Ready? Come on, I got better stuff to do than waiting for Jeff to get this thing to make a noise. Whatever, you're gonna have to take my word for it. But yeah, I did notice that. It's just because of the cut on the face of the tang on here. It just, when you open it harder, and this is very common with cheaper knives. If you have really cheap knives, you know what I'm talking about. These cheap liner locks, they're roughly cut. They're not precise fits. So if you open it really hard, sometimes the liner will actually push over so much that it sticks. It's kind of like jammed in to the bottom of the tang there. So you get a little bit of a popping noise, a little bit of a struggle to close that. It's just common with cheap knives. There is actually no liners on this. If you can see through here, you'll notice that the liner lock is just an insert. Use my hand back here to let that focus. That is an insert inside of the scale. So there's a cutout there and a separate piece of spring steel that makes up that liner lock. So there's no actual liners on this, just the aluminum scales. It is a free-flowing design, as you can clearly see. It really is a cheap Chinese knife, but it's not the worst one. So for a beater knife, I would still want something better for a beater knife, but that's because I'm a knife guy. If you're watching this, you're probably a knife guy too, or a knife girl, or a knife woman, or a knife man, or a knife grandpa, or whatever. You're into your knives if you're watching this review. So even your cheap beater knives are probably better than this. But I will completely agree with Larry. This is not a bad knife for a freebie. So something to throw in the tackle box, or give to someone who can really appreciate it more than you can. Knife people tend to be a little bit picky with their stuff. Once you've experienced a lot of different quality knives, someone gives you something cheap and you're kind of like, eh. But to someone else, there's hundreds and thousands of people out there that can appreciate and like knives. They don't know anything about it. That's where these things come in. If you're a cigar smoker and a pipe smoker and you're not in the knife scene, you can certainly get this as a freebie and really appreciate it. Wow, that's a nice quality little knife. There's nothing wrong with that. The lack of knowledge or experience with other knives to compare it to, what's it really make a difference? For that particular person, that particular moment, it'd make them really happy. You can give this to a 13-year-old kid getting started in knives, and he'll be blown away by it and really appreciate it far more than the knife collectors with experience can. So overall, I ripped on the advertisement for this, which I still think was stupid. But yeah, props to pipesandcigars.com for having this as a freebie. It could have been worse, put it that way. But I wouldn't go struggling to find this for sale anywhere. You're not missing out much. So that's all. Thank you again, Larry. Really, really appreciate it. It was so cool to, what a nice surprise to find this. Real quick, another thing I just noticed, but I didn't mention, is the lanyard hole here is slightly covered by that pocket clip. Not a huge deal, but again, just kind of a example of cheaper quality. But it does work. If you want to throw a lanyard on here, you certainly can. So anyway, I think it would have been better if instead of having a lanyard hole here, they just had a, I don't know, some kind of a cigar punch. That would have been cool if you can integrate that into this knife. I mean, you think you would. If you're giving someone a knife who's buying cigars all the time, you'd have some kind of integrated punch or cutter or something in it, right? To make it, it's kind of gimmicky, but at least it's a little more functional. So that's it for this one. That's my take on this Rockwell knife from pipesandcigars.com. Yep. So thanks for watching. Appreciate your time as always, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you soon with some new videos. Take it easy, guys.